Okay, good morning everyone. We are live and we've got lots of people coming through the door already. So good morning and welcome back. It's been a few weeks, so it's really good to be back. Wow, you're all flying in this morning. We've got 37, 41 people already in the room, which is fantastic. We've had such a good response to the announcement of this particular webinar. We've had over 110 people register and lots more people asking for the recording as well, which will be available after the session. But hello everyone who's just come in. Welcome. This is another installment of the Sight and Sound and Seascape social hub, which we've been running for quite a few months now, but we've had a couple of weeks off. But now we're back. We're back with another session, which is all about iOS, Apple, and their range of accessibility features. So I'm here this morning with the regular two Stuarts. We've got Stuart Beveridge from Seascape, and we've got Stuart Lawler, my colleague, from Sight and Sound over in Ireland. And we'll give it, as always, we'll give a few more minutes just to let any stragglers arrive. And then we'll kick off. So how are you, Stuart and Stuart? Are you both well?
Doing fine, Sam. It's a bit drizzly here in Dublin this morning. I don't know what the weather is like for you guys but it's,
oh really?
You know, we're fine.
You know what? East Yorkshire, it's like the Costa del Hull over here today. It's
Costa del Hull.
It's beautiful. No, it's pretty miserable here as well. To be honest. What about you, Stuart Beveridge? How's it up in Scotland?
It's slightly cold, but I mean it's not bad. It's not bad. It's there's no rain or anything. If you can put up with the cold, then it's actually not too bad.
Excellent. And is Kirkcaldy still flooded, or have you survived the floods?
Well, I mean, our building in Kirkcaldy is now under severe renovation. You know, on the ground floors.
Yeah.
And I think it's been. I mean, at the moment, all I can tell you is that our tech room everything has just been ripped out the thing, and
wow,
there's a lot going on there. So I would envisage that I'm not going to be back at work. I won't be back this year, and actually I'm saying to clients now when I phone them, it might be even way into, I'm actually thinking February and March time at least. Yeah. And you know, the stuff with, dare I mention it, I've mentioned it once, but the stuff with COVID really is not helping the situation at all. As you know, Sam, actually with a couple of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can discuss more about that later and how we're combating COVID as an organisation and as a partnership with Seascape as well.
But yeah, still managing from home. You know, still doing fine.
Good stuff. Well, good. I hope everybody else is as well. So we've got 73 people in the room, which is fantastic.
Wow.
And I know that a lot of people as well can't make it, and they'll be watching the recording later on. So that's really good. Really great numbers. So thank you everyone for joining. And we'll kick straight off because we've got a lot to get through today, as you can imagine. Apple and iOS is a beast, and there's a lot involved. So we're sort of just scratching the surface today, but you know, I'm sure there will be a series of these webinars to explore other areas, all areas. Good. So welcome back, any of our regulars. Welcome any newcomers. We do love seeing new faces pop up in these sessions. So it's great to have you all here. And yeah, we're feeling refreshed after a few weeks off. So yeah, we're back with a bang. Great. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to let you all see my ugly mug. There we go. So you know who's talking. Yeah, good. So what we're going to do first, we've done introductions. Please do use the facilities as always. I can see we've already got a few people saying good morning. We've got Chris Albert, Simon. Hello everybody. I can see Chris has put up a comment now in a second, which we'll come back to. But yeah, please use the facility. So that we've got a chat feature, okay, which is Alt and H on a Windows machine, Command and H on a Mac. And please do leave comments, questions, queries, observations, anything. Leave it in there, and we'll do our best to get through everything throughout the session. You can also raise your hand, okay? And I always forget the keystroke. Is it Alt and Y?
Alt and Y it is.
There you go. You see, my memory is still serving me well. Alt and Y or Command and Y. That will raise your little virtual hand, and we'll be able to get back to you, and we can unmute you, and you can voice your questions and anything else as well. Fantastic. So, Apple, iOS. I've had so much fun the last sort of week playing around with all my Apple gadgets. I've got my Mac here, I've got my iPad, my iPhone. It's been a real learning experience for me, actually, because I have used iPhones in the past and iPads. I've had my Mac for quite a few years, but the accessibility features are very well hidden, or they were anyway, and we're going to be exploring that a bit more today about how iOS 14 has sort of put them out there a bit more. They're not as well hidden, so they're much more accessible, which is great. So good. So firstly, Stuart Lawler is going to be talking us through some breaking news from Apple, aren't you, Stuart Lawler?
I'm just waiting for the music, Sam. Where's the breaking news music?
I'm going to do a
in there.
A silent
Drums.
drum roll.
Yeah, drum roll. Okay. Yeah, so Apple held they call a lightning event this week. If you may remember, Apple had an event in September where they showcased iOS 14 and the new Mac OS, version of which I can't remember because I'm not a Mac user, but Sam has just been chatting about those, of course, with a lot of new features. And if you've experienced iOS 14, you will have seen some of those with things like image description and screen recognition, and of course the new widgets, which actually lots of people are talking about. I'm not sure I'm that excited about them, but maybe we'll talk about those later. But what they didn't do in that event was they didn't talk about iPhones. And they said, we're going to talk about iPhones at a later date. And that's generally what Apple do. They don't sort of tell you when they're going to talk about it. And then a week or so before the event, they say, oh, we're having an event on whatever it was, the 12th of October, or the 13th of October, sorry, Tuesday last, to talk about new phones. And they did just that. So obviously iPhones had been slightly delayed this year, the production, as is the case for lots of companies because of COVID. So the iPhone 12 has been announced, but this time there are 4 models instead of 3. So similar to last year's phones, you'll have the iPhone 12, the iPhone 12 Pro, and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. But now you'll also have the iPhone Mini, the iPhone 12 Mini, which will be the very same as the iPhone 12, only that it has a smaller screen size of 5.4 inches. So it'll be not unlike the older, we're going way back to things like the iPhone 4 and 5 and 6. So if you liked your small screen size, and if you just find that the bigger phones are sometimes a bit too big and a bit too heavy, this might be worth investing in. You'll get the same chip as you will in the iPhone 12. Now, the Mini and the Pro Max will not be available until November, but the 12 and the 12 Pro, I believe, will be available for pre-order from tomorrow, both in the UK and here in Ireland, and then I believe will ship the following Friday or the Friday after. So it's essentially similar. I believe the design is going to be slightly different. The sides of the phone will be a little less rounded, so they'll feel a little bit like the older. Again, that somebody mentioned the iPhone 4, I think, during the conference. That's the first thing. The second thing is we're going to get a new HomePod. We're a little bit jealous of you guys in the UK because we don't have the HomePod over here, and we're not going to have the new HomePod either. But if you're interested in Apple's smart speaker, which is probably fair to say is the weakest of the smart speakers on the market at the moment, because the others are probably a little bit more sophisticated in how they do processing. But the Apple HomePod, new version of the HomePod, is due to be released as well, I think, at the end of October. So as events go, and I didn't watch the event live, although I do hear it was audio described. And if you have an Apple TV, or indeed if you have the Apple TV app on your phone, you can watch it on catch up with audio description, which is really good. So it's good that Apple are making those things available. So new phones, if you're thinking of upgrading, they will be available on the Apple online store. I know prices here in Ireland for the Mini in euros are starting from 800 euros, which is not cheap.
Wow.
But then again, Apple's phones are never cheap. So if you want to look at those, and there is the trade-in offer. And if you're on an older phone, by the way, than the iPhone 11, so if you're on maybe an 8, maybe still, and you want to explore the newer technology, they've knocked 150 pounds or dollars maybe off the iPhone 11, so you can buy that a little bit cheaper than you might have been able to buy it previously. So that's all. I just wanted to give people a bit of an update on the on what's happening with phones.
That's great. Thank you. No, it's a bit of breaking news. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
And Stuart, you also mentioned earlier that Apple are sort of they're going more green.
Oh, sorry, Sam, I did. Yes, and apologies. Thank you for reminding me.
No.
Apple are conscious of their carbon footprint, I guess, as we all are nowadays, and they have made a decision not to include not to include a charger or the Lightning pods anymore. Earpods anymore. So the earphones you would have had with the Lightning cable won't be included. Apparently, when they were asked about this, they said, or somebody asked at the session, or they mentioned at the session the other night, there are something like 70 million AirPods floating around in the US alone. So lots of people have a couple of,
unused,
use them and buy them. There'll be no charger, and the USB cable they provide will be a newer style Lightning to USB-C cable. So it won't be the thicker end, so you may need to get a different receptacle for the USB cable. But of course, the older Lightning cables will still charge those phones as well. Yeah,
I know it's always a big deal whenever a charging port or cable is changed, especially with Apple devices, because it's because at the moment you can universally use the charging cable across iPads, phones. So it's changing from what style is it changing from again, Stuart? Sorry.
So the old USB-A cable, which is the end, which is the kind of thicker end, that's going in favor of USB-C, but the Lightning end will still plug into the phone. So you can still use your old Lightning cables if you want. It's just that anything you buy from now on won't have a USB-A type connection. Right,
I see. Good. And Ricky's actually just asked, he said, how is the thin USB more green? Yeah, well,
I actually think, Ricky, it's to do with, I believe they can they've less space in the box. They're talking about the boxes are going to be smaller without the charger or the headphones, and they say something about there was some stat I was reading the other day about how many boxes they can fit on a pallet when they're shipping them. So something like 2,000 or 3,000 extra boxes can go on the pallet.
So less air miles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's less space in the box, which means more delivery. And there was I watched it live, and there was something about mining. I don't know if it's for like uranium and things, but it cuts down on mining the earth. If that if that makes sense.
Well, it's it's
something to do with the environment. Basically,
well,
it's there.
And it's progress, isn't it? It's progress. It's
we all have to do our bit for the planet, and I think it's a good thing that Apple are doing it.
Absolutely, I agree. Ricky's also said he's got heaps of redundant Apple plastic and cardboard. Me too.
Me too.
My office is full of all. Do we all keep our Apple boxes from our iPads and phones? I do.
We do, and if you read Steve Jobs's biography, it's biography, not an autobiography. He talks about this, and he says he wants the box. He wanted the Apple packaging to be, and I think I'm quoting here, a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I read that as well.
The boxes, and I have kept my iPhone boxes. It's mad.
It is true. It's sort of you know, marketing and the design. I read as well. It's, you know, they wanted it to be like, you know, opening opening a present or opening some sort of, you know, it's a real experience.
It's an
Actually
experience, yeah,
opening the packaging, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it really is. It's unrivaled. You know, I think the Apple sort of that experience. But yeah, so they've got a lot of things right, and set the trend in a lot of ways, haven't they, Apple? But good. Well, that's great, Stuart. Thank you for all of that.
No problem.
Good stuff. So myself and Stuart Beveridge, we're going to be now demonstrating some of the accessibility features. Stuart is going to be looking at VoiceOver, and then I'm going to be looking at some sort of low vision areas. So obviously Magnifier, the Zoom feature, and also at the end, I'm going to be looking at the Apple voice control, which we can sort of explore across devices. So please do, ask away any questions. But first of all, Stuart Beveridge is going to kick off with some Apple VoiceOver. Thanks, Stuart.
So hi everyone. I'm just going to keep it a basic introduction to VoiceOver at the moment, what it is, how you basically navigate through screens using it, and just a couple of other things, but I'm not going to go into anything very deep, because I think we can really focus on this in future sessions. You know, again, we just start at the basics, and then we can, you know, start the building blocks, and then we can see what other people want to know in the future, because I do really think a session on accessible apps that work alongside VoiceOver might be beneficial as a future webinar going forward. Anyway, VoiceOver. It is a fully fledged built-in screen reader, and it's available on all Apple devices. So if you have an iPhone, as I do, it's in there. If you have an iPad, it's in there, an Apple Watch, even a HomePod, it's there, Apple TV, iPod Touch. It is also available in the Mac. I'm going to stay away from the Mac, because while VoiceOver on Apple devices such as iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, the beauty there is, because everything is really touchscreen based, although you can connect other devices such as keyboards and braille displays. If you just take an iPhone, for example, out the box, then VoiceOver is controlled, once it's turned on, using a gestural language. So what I'm getting at here is, if you learn VoiceOver on the iPhone and how to work it out using the gestures on the iPhone, if you then, for example, bought an iPad, an Apple Watch, an iPod Touch, to some extent even an Apple TV and a HomePod, all the gestures are pretty much the same. So if you learn it on one device, then you've pretty much learned that you can just the transition's really easy to other devices. Again, the Mac is a whole different ball game, but for the most part, VoiceOver on touchscreen devices is really easy once you get the basics mastered. As I say, it's a built-in screen reader. It comes for free on all these devices, inbuilt. And the reason I'm kind of banging on about that there's so many people that actually think they have to do something more. They actually have to download something, you know, like you have to do with the TalkBack suite on Android. Not the case in Apple. As soon as you know how that VoiceOver's in there and how to turn it on, then you are up and running, and you can just start working away with VoiceOver. And what VoiceOver does is it works with all the built-in apps on Apple devices, and even with a lot of third-party apps, which I really do want to do. If the developers make it accessible, if they build VoiceOver in to their third-party apps, then again, the possibilities are endless. And that could be anything from things like online banking, as I do. I have smart devices, so you know, I could turn my kettle on through my phone, for example. Again, I'll maybe touch on that in a future session. But to get VoiceOver on, then, say if you've just bought a new iPhone, what I tend to do is, when you first turn the iPhone on, you don't know even when it's turned on or anything, you know, because VoiceOver isn't turned on. So I actually have to get sighted assistance to know when my iPhone is actually turned on for the first time if it's a new phone. But once I know the iPhone's turned on, now I have a later iPhone. I have a 10s at the moment. So what I would do is I would just quickly press the power button 3 times, because there's no home button on the later iPhones. So if I press the power button 3 times quickly, it just activates, excuse me, it just activates VoiceOver straight away, and then I can begin using it. So let me just give a quick example. Just open my phone up. So because I did this when I first bought my iPhone XS, I think it sort of tells the iPhone, yeah, that this guy needs, you know, sighted assistance, he needs VoiceOver. So if I just quickly press the power button 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and it says VoiceOver off. So now anybody like my dad or anything like that, you know, he'd be able to operate this phone normally as a sighted person would. If I press it 3 times again, the power button on the side of the phone, VoiceOver is now on. Be quiet. And what it does is it then, any time I touch the screen with one finger, VoiceOver will tell me what's under my finger. So as I say, VoiceOver is a very, very gestural language. You can control it with 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, even 4 fingers will do certain things. But I always try and get people to, when I'm training them at least, to start off using 1 finger. And the easiest way to find out what's on a screen, especially your home screen of your iPhone, is if you just place your finger anywhere on the screen and then don't lift it up, just move it around a bit all over the screen. Any icon you land on, VoiceOver is going to tell you what your finger is hovering over. So for example, if I just put my finger down somewhere on this screen, someone notes. If I move it to the right, I'm on stocks. If I move it down, podcasts, to the left, App Store, home. So you can just keep moving that finger around without lifting it off the screen, and VoiceOver will always tell you what's under your finger. It doesn't open anything up. That's a fail-safe. It's just going to highlight what your finger's hovering over. And the reason I use this, especially on my home screen, is it almost acts like a kind of shortcut, because I've memorized where all my most important apps are on the screen. So if I get a new text message in, for example, which VoiceOver will read, I can just touch the Messages app without even, you know, having to look at the screen. You know, I don't have any sight anyway, but, you know, I can just touch, even just, I'll try it now. I just touched Messages because I knew where it was on the screen. You know, I've got like a mind map in my head where everything is. If I want to touch on, if I want to find out if I've any emails, I've just touched that, you know, without even having to feel around the screen. I just know where it is with practice.
Stuart, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Are we able just to get a little bit more audio on your VoiceOver?
Is it not loud enough?
Just try it again for me.
No unread emails.
Yeah, we're getting it. It's just if there's anywhere, well, maybe just getting closer to a mic or what.
Possibly, maybe my hand's moving about a wee bit, Sam.
Don't worry, it is coming through. It's just sort of a little faint. Anyway.
Yeah, is it making sense though? Yet what's?
Yeah, absolutely. It just
yeah. Let me just try and get this closer to the mic. Sorry, Sam.
No problem. Just wanted
to. Yeah. So again, it's just like that's where I use the kind of the 1 finger touch gesture, or the explore by touch gesture as it's known, and it really does become very useful over time the more you use your iPhone. So for example, if I wanted, say I had a message and I wanted to read it, so I could find Messages again.
Double tap to open.
Is that okay, Sam? Is that
perfect? It
coming
might just
through?
be my,
Yeah.
it might just be my connection, Stuart. Sorry.
Possibly. Yeah, I'm kind of doing this, you know, on the as best I can, I'm afraid. But
No,
what
it's
it said
it's all
there,
good.
yeah, cool. So it said messages, and because I have all the hints and things turned on, because VoiceOver is a screen reader, so I mean, you could change the speech, you could change what information VoiceOver conveys, depending on if you're a beginner or advanced user. You know, it's the same as it's a screen reader, you know, so the same as it's with JAWS or if you have NVDA, everything is you know, configurable, if configurable is even a word. So again, it's just you have, if you are not sighted or your vision is very poor, this is the answer for you know, full use of an iPhone. So when I hit messages, so it says double tap to open, and now you don't. A lot of people make a mistake where they say they think they actually have to double tap over the app that they want to open. But no, you can, as soon as you highlight an app, you can just double tap anywhere on the screen, and hopefully this will come through. And as soon as I've double tapped, it's opened up the Messages app, and then I'm not going to let you hear any of my, because this is my personal iPhone, but I could then read any message I have on that screen. If I want to come out, because I have a lot of people still like the iPhone 8 because they have a home button. What I have to do though, because my iPhone XS doesn't have a home button, I have to swipe up from the bottom of the screen. And then I'm not sure if this is going to come through, Sam, but when I put my finger on the bottom of the screen, I don't know if that tone is coming through.
Yeah, very, very faintly, but we got something.
Yeah, you got something. So there is a tone, and as soon as I hear that tone, I just drag my finger up the screen until I hear a second tone. And then I lift my finger off, and then it goes back to the home screen. So a myth, I know a lot of visual impaired people, when they heard that the later iPhones didn't have a home button, they were very angry, you know, because it lost Touch ID and you had to use Face ID and things. Now, I have not found any inaccessibility at all with this. I'm sticking with it. I love the new feature. I prefer it to the home button, but you know, everybody's different. So Apple, again, even with every iPhone they bring out, accessibility is, you know, a key part of it. So moving on to another quick basic thing with VoiceOver. So that's great. If you know where things are on your screen, it's fine. You know, if you know where your items are, you can just touch them quickly and then double tap to activate them. The problem is, the more apps you have on your screen, and if you go into an app such as Mail or emails or Messages, the app's going to change. Safari, the internet, that's another big one. So what you can do, because you don't know where things are, you can actually swipe through the screen to the right to go forward with one finger and to the left to go backwards with one finger. So if you swipe forward, it takes you from the top of the screen to the bottom. And if you swipe to the left, then it goes from the bottom of the screen up to the top of the screen again. So it's kind of like using the up and down arrow keys on a keyboard. So to give an example, if I go up to the top of the screen, which is FaceTime, so now I can swipe through every single item on this home screen in order from top to bottom. So if I swipe to the right, Thursday, the 15th of October. Photos. Double App Store. Oh, and I've not swiped FaceTime. Quick enough there. Calendar. Edit mode. Activate. Sorry, VoiceOver's doing something odd. Calendar. Photos. Camera. Mail. One. So if I keep swiping, I'll never get lost. I'll find what I want to find eventually, and then depending on what I'm doing, I can just double tap to activate it. For example, if I swipe to the left, I'll go back up towards the top of the screen, so you should hear things like the calendar and the photos again. And then as soon as I'm back at FaceTime, if I keep swiping to the left, you hear it repeating itself. So again, you know you're at the top of the screen. You know you can't go any further, and you've actually gotten to the last item on the screen. So it keeps you from getting lost. That's a quick demo of the basics of VoiceOver. Do you want me to carry on, Sam, or do you want me to?
Well, we've got a few questions. If we want to sort of.
If there's questions just now, yeah, let's take questions because I could easily move through it. And
yeah, no problem. Actually, I think those questions were relating to Stuart's earlier points, but actually, Chris Albert's mentioned his iPhone 11 iOS 14. It uses voice input, and for some reason it decided it would type every sentence twice. He's also had a problem stopping it listening. He'd end a text and leave the phone, only to find it had recorded all the conversation in the room since the text. So
Chris is using voice dictation
yes.
rather than kind of voice
input. Yeah, okay.
VoiceOver.
Over. Sorry.
I'll maybe come back to that at the end, if that's okay then.
Yeah.
Sam, once, because I'm conscious of time as well. See, when I'm training people, that's kind of the basics I do with them, teaching them, exploring the screen, swiping to the right and left to get through items, double tapping and knowing how to get back to the home screen. Now, we could touch on Siri and voice dictation as well, but I just want to, if you don't get VoiceOver turned on, say you get somebody sighted to set your iPhone up for you the first time, what I found is that VoiceOver then, if you try pressing that power button or your home button 3 times to turn it on, because the phone's actually been activated, that shortcut seems to go away by default. So it gets people into a bit of a pickle. So there are another couple of ways to enable and disable VoiceOver. The one that I avoid, if I possibly can, is getting sighted assistants to do it, because if you don't have VoiceOver on, then you're not going to get any feedback whatsoever. But you can, through the use of Siri, which is Apple's personal assistant. I suppose it's a poor man's Amazon Echo, to be honest. But,
controversial. That's controversial.
It does some things to very, very good standard. So I could, if I'm really stuck, I could actually use Siri to turn VoiceOver on and off, and you can do this with any Apple setting and any accessibility feature. I could activate Siri now and say, turn VoiceOver off.
Okay, VoiceOver is now off.
And I'm not sure if that's came through, Sam, but it did say, okay, VoiceOver is now off.
Yeah, loud and clear.
So if I now activate Siri again, so again, this is foregoing the need for sighted assistance because I've got this in my iPhone or iPad, for example. Turn VoiceOver on.
Okay, I've turned VoiceOver.
Yeah, great, we got that.
VoiceOver is now
Podcasts. Double tap to open.
So that's really good, isn't it? That's really easy to do. The other thing I just want to quickly draw people's attention to, Sam, and then I'm going to let you crack on with a few things, but I do think it's very important for anything that we're going to cover here going forward. There is, if you go into settings and then accessibility, at the very bottom of the accessibility options, there is an accessibility shortcut function. So do you remember I was saying, pressing the power button or the home button 3 times when you first get your iPhone will turn VoiceOver on or off. If you enable this accessibility shortcut, you can tick VoiceOver, you can tick magnification, for example, you can tick invert colours, and then from any time, if you're struggling, you can press the power button or the home button 3 times, and whatever you've selected for the accessibility shortcut will be enabled or disabled. So it's like a toggle action. And again, when I'm training clients, they find that very, very useful, especially people whose vision kind of fluctuates. So The accessibility shortcut is key. So, I think I'm quite happy to leave it at the moment. Just that's a brief introduction to VoiceOver and how it's navigated. Just be aware again, we won't cover it in this session, but you can connect keyboards and braille displays and control it that way as well. So, that's me for the moment, Sam. I'll pass it back to yourself and see what other accessibility features you have in mind.
Yeah, so as Stuart, thank you, Stuart. So as Stuart mentioned, I think this will be the first of many iOS webinars. There's so many different areas to explore. Like Stuart mentioned, how you can use VoiceOver paired with a braille display, for instance. Lots of other areas that we can explore. But a couple of questions which I think you've already answered, Stuart. Sharon's asked, obviously, how do you turn VoiceOver on? You just looked at that. You can use Siri. So you can use it by voice command. Greg's asked, how would somebody unlock their phone without either fingerprint ID or obviously a number code? So I'll let you answer that one, Stuart.
So there are a couple of people I know. I advise strongly against it, but they actually just decide to disable all the different, passcodes, Touch ID, Face ID. So as soon as they press the home button on, say, their iPad, the iPad's just going to pop into life right away. So, I really do advise against that, because then anybody can get into it. That's one way of doing it. Of course, the other way, if you have a newer iPhone, as I do, from the iPhone 10 upwards, there is the Face ID option, and I could tell you I was able to set it up on my own, with using VoiceOver. VoiceOver will guide you when to tilt your head, to get different angles of your face. And again, I don't miss Touch ID at all. I find Face ID perfectly accessible, no issues whatsoever. So if you have a newer iPhone, you could do it that way, or the way I would not advise is just disable everything, and then you're just using your home button or your swipe up from the bottom of the screen to unlock the phone without any need for Touch ID or anything like that.
Great, thank you, Stuart. And also just a few other quick the new additions to VoiceOver from iOS 14. So I've got a list here of how they've improved. I mean, VoiceOver is smarter in general. But they've added a few extra features. So now it can recognize descriptions for images and photos, for instance. I don't know if you've explored that yet, Stuart.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. You can also it will also describe text within images and photos as well.
Yeah. It works really well. This works really well. Sorry, Sam, I'm cutting across you. I just felt it's in my head. It works really, really well if you are a Twitter user, for example, and there's images, as people tend to do in Twitter or Facebook. I'm not so sure about, because I don't use Facebook, but I've been told it works really well, and I can tell you in Twitter it works brilliantly. So if there's a picture on your Twitter, somebody's put a picture up, it might say, something like 4 people standing on a grassy hill or something, so it tries to describe what's in the image. Really, really useful.
Sam, can I just make a really quick comment as well, just to add to what Stuart says? That whole area of screen recognition and picture recognition and text recognition has also the benefit of making potential apps that were inaccessible now more usable. And a great example that we're using here is we have a home shopping app that we use every week now at the moment, because we're not going out shopping. And the app is, I mean, the service behind it is really good, but the app's a little bit clunky. And pre this version of the software, you had to do things like turning speech on and off, and tapping on sort of unlabeled buttons to understand how to use the app. And the whole screen recognition feature in VoiceOver has made that app significantly more accessible, and I found things in the app that I never knew existed. So it's worth playing around with. You can put it onto any apps that you find challenging, so you don't have to have it on for everything, because in fact if you have it on for apps that are accessible, it might actually do the reverse and make them harder to use. So you do need to play with it a little bit, and it's also available in the rotor, so you can turn it on and off at will, but it's really good.
Great. Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah, so if I just quickly, I'm going to second what Stuart says there. So you could have it on for certain apps and not for others. So what I found, I actually thought iOS 14 was broken because I got so excited by the screen recognition feature, and I turned it on for absolutely everything. And what I then did, even trying to read a text message, which is built in obviously to Apple, because I had the screen recognition feature turned on, it was not doing what it was supposed to do. Now that is a built-in Apple app. As soon as I turned the feature off, specifically for things like, you know, the messages app, the phone app, the mail app, it went back to working how it should. But as Stuart says, something like your online shopping apps, for example, you might find, you might be really surprised at how good the screen recognition feature actually makes these apps become.
It's amazing, it really is.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, guys. Stuart, Laura, I know why we've still got you, because I'm aware that you have to shoot off slightly earlier. We just had a couple of questions regarding your sort of announcement of the new devices earlier. So, yeah, just about the charging connections, really. So, will there be? We've got a question here. Will there be 2 female ports on the new phone, the Lightning and the USB-C?
No, sorry.
No?
The USB-C is on the other end of the cable. So you will, so it's not USB-A anymore, it's USB-C. So obviously the idea is that USB cables are moving over to USB-C, rather than the older USB-A connections, which were the sort of thicker ends. So no, the connections on the phone will still be Lightning only. Got
it. Great. Yeah, I think that was it actually. I think that was it. That was fine. They just wanted to clear that one up. I'm not sure who that was, sorry, but hopefully that's answered that for you. Good stuff. All right, thank you, Stuart, Lawler. Now we do have some questions queued up. Before I kick on with the low vision stuff, let's open up. Chris has been waiting patiently. So Chris McMillan, if you'd like to talk, you just have to unmute your microphone. There you go. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. It's my husband, Mike, I think, is going to ask the question.
Well, it wasn't so much a question. I'm Mike. It's
Hi, Mike.
We've just bought 2 new iPad Pros. The connector on there is USB-C, not the Lightning connector.
Yeah, I believe the iPads are being treated differently. So I think the iPads have the C and their phones are staying with Lightning connectors.
It's good for trade for leads. We had to buy a few extras.
Yeah, I think the good thing about USB-C is it's becoming more commonplace and lots of devices. And of course, the great thing with USB-C cable is it doesn't matter which way you put it in. So we're in that transition stage at the moment, but Apple are sticking with Lightning for their phones for probably a little bit longer.
Right.
And hopefully that clears that one up for you, Chris and Mike.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you want to ask anything else, or is that okay?
No, that's it. That
good. Thank you. All right then. Good. We've got Raina as well. Hi, Raina. Just need to unmute your microphone. If you're still there, you go. Hi,
yes,
Raina.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Hi there. Thank you. First of all, can I just say I'm so pleased that you are going to be doing some more iOS, Apple sessions, because problem is getting training from sighted people is that they teach in a sighted way, and it's just so much more helpful to get it in this context. So I just want to say that. Okay. Now, my question is this. I use Voiceover together with Zoom. I've got some, 1% residual sight. I use my phone, you know, very frequently for all sorts of things, all different apps. And in most apps, I'll find one or two, or in, you know, sort of, as it were, dialogue boxes where I've got to make a selection. I will find that there is a button or something that's not text labeled, or and therefore VoiceOver doesn't work with it. So I have to turn VoiceOver off, use Zoom to you know, enlarge it and select it without VoiceOver on, and then turn VoiceOver back on again. And I have to do this. I mean, I don't want to take up time, but I could actually, you know, go through all sorts of situations where I have to do that on a daily basis. And because I'm using VoiceOver and Zoom, and because Apple seems to have decided that VoiceOver is if you've got no sight and you won't use it with Zoom, and Zoom is, you know, if you've got sight but you won't be using VoiceOver, it's not very well organized. So it's fine on the phone, but on an iPad, I find when I press without a home button, I press the, you know, the turn off the, you know, press the button 3 times and get the accessibility, you know, accessibility. Triple click. Then what I've got another step to do. Do you want it to switch off? You know, I've got my little list. I've got Zoom selected, VoiceOver selected. I've got to find which one's Zoom. I've got to switch that off. And do you know what? Consequently, I got an iPad Pro. I don't use it. It's just unusable because of that. And I think with the Hey Siri thing, with that turn off VoiceOver, there were some issues, and I just kind of thought, oh, this is ridiculous. So I got a home button on my phone, and I just use that for things that I should be using my iPad for. So, but this is my problem is how, you know, are you familiar with what I'm saying about this problem? That, because I think people should be aware of that. And I'll just give one example. For example, I stopped playing. I thought, oh, great, at last I can play Scrabble. And I played, you know, Word, but the blank, you know, tile doesn't work with VoiceOver because it's not got a text label on it. It's not got a number. And so you can't move it. So you have to switch off VoiceOver, move your tile, switch. And in the end, I just gave it up. It was just too laborious. So it happens all the time. So I just wondered if you could comment on that issue, basically.
Yeah, I'll have a little go at it, Rainer, and then I'll pass over to the other Stuart for his thoughts. So my thoughts on it, I know exactly what you mean, that even though I have no sight, so that you know, it's a wee bit easier for me in terms of I don't need Zoom, you know. And that is the case that with the, maybe I didn't make it crystal clear. With the accessibility shortcut, I mean, you could tick, you know, 4 or 5 different options. You use the triple click home, and then they all pop up as a selection, and you have to, you know, choose the appropriate one that you need at that specific time, which is obviously very problematic. I do have clients that have the same issue as yourself. And VoiceOver and Zoom, again, have no idea about really, I know what Zoom is, but I have no idea how it really works. But again, they don't seem to work together from what I'm being told, you know. So if you've got VoiceOver and Zoom on together, then it does seem to be a wee bit problematic. With regards to the unlabeled buttons, as I say, VoiceOver should work absolutely fantastically with any app Apple have built into the phone, because they've made it work. Games, for example, on the other hand, are a totally different minefield. For example, I would love to play Football Manager with VoiceOver, and it's never going to happen because the developers have not built the VoiceOver kind of user interface into the game. You know, they've not built it into the gaming engine. It's the same with maybe other more apps, like sometimes the banking apps, for example, if they've not, you know, actually built
I have a huge problem with that.
Yeah. And it's down to the developer. It's really not down to, and even this new screen recognition feature, as good as it is, it's the actual app developer that's, to be honest with you, at fault.
So,
you know, probably.
But is Apple not got some kind of standards by which it says, you know, we won't, you know, because that's really should be in the contract. Well, you know, unless you're building this in, we won't use it.
As far as I'm aware, they don't. It's not mandatory, if I can use that word, to make that accessible. They do promote accessibility at their WWDC conferences, but you know, there's no law set in stone for it, unfortunately. And I have contacted, I'm going to try and keep this brief, you know, I've contacted a lot of developers. I actually have to, it's down to really us to actually contact these app developers.
Yes, and could you tell us what phrase to use? Because I do that, but I don't know exactly, you know, what do I tell them in technical terms that they need to be doing?
When I do it, I used to actually do this because I used to run a gaming project for the visually impaired people. So what I used to do was I'd find games that weren't accessible, and I would say, you know, I'd email them. And, you know, it's not about saying your products are rubbish or anything. It's kind of saying, pointing them to the accessibility features that are in the Apple product. So, you know, hi, my name is Rainer. I've tried to play your game and it's inaccessible. I'm visually impaired. You know, so you're actually telling them that you have a visual impairment. You're trying to play the game. Do you know that they're actually in Apple products? There is, under settings and accessibility, there are a range of features such as voiceover. You know, depending on what accessibility features you use, you know, point them to that feature. There is an actual voiceover manual for developers online, which I don't actually have at the moment, but that there is an actual manual for developers that developers can download and then look into themselves. And then it's kind of up to the developer to...
Really helpful, thank you.
The other way you could possibly, sorry, I'm quite passionate about this, so I'm keeping going here, but I think it's key as well, Raina, is you could, if you have a social media account, I find Twitter quite useful for this. Obviously, you've got a character length, so you know you'd have to just put the bare bones of it in, you know, keep it short. But if you put this out on Twitter, so if you find an app that's inaccessible, such as, say, an online shopping app or a banking app, tweet them, and you know. And because then they cannot ignore it. It's in the public eye. If you just email them, then see the amount of people that just don't get back to me or get back to me. And some of them's quite, we can't do this. Our app's too developed now. If you actually tweet this out, you imagine the amount of people that's going to see that, and it might snowball, and there might be just enough kind of people get involved and say, look, this is ridiculous, sort of thing. You know, I don't want that to say, it shouldn't be about people saying it's ridiculous, but that's another idea.
Yes, and actually, that's brilliant. And I have actually done that a couple of times, but thank you for the encouragement, because you feel like you're in a planet on your own. So that's why these sessions are so great. Thank you so much.
Great.
No problem. Yeah.
Thank you, Raina. That's great. Thank you, Stuart, for taking that one on as well. Rob Lamar, sorry, Rob, if I'm pronouncing your surname incorrectly, has just left some useful information in the chat box as well about using VoiceOver with Zoom. You can turn Zoom on by triple tapping the screen with 3 fingers. If you didn't know that already, I'm going to explore that in a second, actually. He's just tested it. Triple tapping again turns Zoom off, so you can operate the Zoom function on an iPad or an iPhone by triple tapping the screen with 3 fingers. But I'm going to look at that in a second. Great. Right, I know that we're short of time today. I did expect us to run over because we've got such a large amount of people in the session, but I'm now very briefly going to look at some low vision features. Okay, we're going to look at the magnifier, the new and improved magnifier feature, the zoom feature, which we've just mentioned, and also the it's called speak content feature as well. So we're going to have a look at that now. All right, so what I want to try and do is, okay, I'm going to try and share my iPad screen with you. If my internet connection is not strong enough, it's not going to allow it. All right, but we'll do our best. Okay, but failing that, all right, you can see my iPad hopefully, and then what I'll do is I will spotlight that video, and then anybody that that is able to see on the screen there, you've got a little bar in the middle of the screen that you can swipe to the left or to the right, and that will increase the size of either my screen share or my spotlit camera. Okay, so you can hopefully, by process of elimination, you'll be able to see something. All right, good. All right, so this is my iPad. Okay, it's just an iPad mini, but it's bang up to date. And I'm obviously sharing my screen with you. Okay, now if I go into settings, okay, and I find accessibility, okay, now apologies if this is very basic stuff for a lot of you, but there may be people out there that, you know, have, this is completely new to them. Okay, so I'm sorry if I'm preaching to the converted, but we'll crack on anyway. So what we've got here is, obviously we've got all the different accessibility features. We're going to be focusing on Zoom, Magnifier, okay, and we're also going to be looking at the spoken content feature as well, okay, because you've got a couple of different options here. Okay, you can actually highlight, you know, hold your finger on a piece of text, you know, and then obviously drag to highlight the text, and then there's an option to select speak it, okay, which will then allow you to obviously hear the audio. You can also use the speak screen feature, okay, which is operated by this little tab / widget here, okay, which they're not the biggest, I must admit, but we're also going to be exploring that as well. Okay, now what I've done, I've sort of tried to increase my, if I go back to accessibility, I've tried to increase my text size, okay, but I'll go a little bit bigger, so hopefully that helps. Okay, I'm aware that obviously doing this remotely isn't the sort of clearest way, but we'll struggle on anyway. So first of all, okay, Magnifier. I want to explore Magnifier. Okay, so the Magnifier tool, okay, they've improved a lot of its features for iOS 14. Okay, now before it wasn't as easy to find, but now they've sort of put it out there. Okay, you'll notice on my home screen there's a Magnifier app now, okay, which can be found in the app library, okay, on your phone or tablet, and you can then drag it onto your home screen. Okay, so I can tap this and it will take me into the Magnifier. But what I can also do, okay, is using my home button, okay, which is down here. If I triple tap the home button, 1, 2, 3, okay, it will open up the Magnifier on my iPad. Now I'm aware that my screen share is lagging big time. it's really far behind. All right, so we'll just let that catch up. Okay, so I do apologize. I did predict this, so for now we can just look at my camera if that's helpful. Okay, so the Magnifier, they've now improved its interface. Okay, so this box in the middle of my screen, okay, I can now operate the Magnifier. I can obviously increase, decrease magnification. I've got a little postcard here that I'm just going to pop underneath my camera. Hopefully we'll be able to see something in a second. There we go. There we are. Yeah, I'm just going to move that across. Okay, so what you can see there is I'm using my iPad now as a handheld digital magnifier. Okay, so we can obviously use the magnification at the top of the screen there, zoom in, zoom out. We can change contrast. Okay, we can also change brightness by tapping on all these controls. Okay, but also quite importantly, we can adjust color filter. Okay, so we've got yellow and black, for instance. Okay, let's move this out of the way. Where are we? There we go. Okay, so I'm just trying to find the best angle for you to see this on my screen. There we go. Okay, so see yellow and black. You can change color filter. I'm aware that, you know, for different eye conditions, different color filters work better. My granddad, he had AMD, and he found that yellow and black, for instance, was best. So you can find all of these things in the filters feature and column here. Now, a really useful additional feature for iOS 14 is the multi-shot within the magnifier. Okay, so before you could just take a still image, you could blow it up by pinch and zoom, or you could you know, obviously use the magnification to blow it up as well. But now what you can do is you can take multiple shots of an image of, you know, food packaging, of a prescription label, of a notice board, whatever it might be. You can take multiple images and you can explore each image separately. So if I tap on this here, okay, you might not be able to see that, but it says multi-shot. Shots will not be saved to the camera roll. Okay, so they won't be saved unless we ask them to be saved. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm also going to do. I'm going to reshare my screen just because it's really not catching up at all. Okay, so we'll just reshare and see how that goes. There we go. It's telling me that we're sharing, so we'll see how we get on with that in a second. Start broadcast. There we go. Okay, so we are resharing. I'm going to go back into my magnifier so you can all see, hopefully, if we catch up. Yes, there we go. So you can see the magnifier on my screen share now as well. Okay, so now I can take multiple images of this particular picture. Okay, one. I'm going to take one at the bottom as well. Two, and then I'm going to take a close-up of the guy's face as well. Now, for those of you that are interested in this little postcard, okay, this is from the SOC Council. I'm a proud member of the SOC Council. All right, don't judge me. Okay, what I do on my days off, okay, that's up to me. All right, but I'm a member of the SOC Council. I collect jazzy socks. All right, guilty as charged. But yeah, this is a little postcard that they sent me. So, but what I can do now, I've taken these three images. Okay, I can tap on the number 3. I can then explore each image individually. Okay, I can zoom in on each image. I can also move this panel in order to see it a bit better as well. Okay, so you can do a multi-shot, angle of the image or whatever it might be that you want to magnify, and you can explore them individually. This is a new feature for iOS 14. Okay, good. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour of Magnifier. Okay, so remember, you can triple tap your home button to access Magnifier, or you can hit the app on the home screen. Okay, hopefully my screen share will catch up again in a second. There you go. So you can see my app just there. But you do need to make sure that Magnifier is turned on in the accessibility features. Okay, as soon as Magnifier is turned off, okay, the app disappears from your home screen. Okay, so that's quite important. All right, just make sure that your Magnifier button is turned on. Okay, good. Now let's have a quick look at Zoom. Okay, now Zoom's brilliant, I think. Horses for courses, always. People may not agree. For those of you that maybe are familiar with Zoom Text, which is a piece of software that is that obviously magnifies and enhances your computer screen. Zoom Text used to be compatible with iOS devices. However, they discontinued it because obviously Apple want to develop their own versions. But it works in a very similar way. Okay, and again, there's a couple of different ways that I can access the Zoom feature. Okay, again, my screen share is lagging, so I apologize, but we'll plow on. Okay, so I've got another little sort of widget on the side of my screen just here. Okay, this little purple red icon. Okay, this is a quick controller for the Zoom feature. Okay, but as Rob outlined earlier in our chat box, you can triple tap the screen, okay, with 3 fingers, and that will also access the Zoom feature. So if I go tap tap tap, okay, now I've got a drop down menu. Okay, I can use the slider bar at the bottom to zoom in and out. Okay, that will magnify my screen. If I hit zoom in, okay, that will zoom in to the last sort of level of magnification that I was using. Okay, now I can move around my screen using 3 fingers. I have to use 3 fingers to move around the screen. If I use 2, it will work. No, it won't. There we go. It will only move from left to right if I use 2 fingers. It won't move up and down. Okay. If I use 1, it'll only move up and down. It won't move left and right. All right. So I need to use 3 fingers to get full control of the screen. Okay. If I double tap with 3 fingers, tap, tap, it will zoom out completely. So I've got full screen again. Okay. Double tap, it'll zoom back in. Okay. If I triple tap, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go. You have to be quite precise with your tapping. Okay, tap, tap, tap. It gives me my drop-down menu again. Okay. Now, what I can also do with the zoom feature, as well as magnify the whole screen, which is what I'm doing at the minute, I can choose the region. If I don't want to magnify the full screen, for instance, somebody that has RP, retinitis pigmentosa, for instance, who obviously their central vision isn't affected, but their peripheral is. So they may feel that a zoom lens works better for them. Okay, so if I hit choose region and window zoom, okay, now what that's done is, okay, it's put this window on my screen. Okay, so it simply magnifies wherever I'm hovering this window. Okay, the screen share is catching up. Okay, now whatever's underneath this little window is magnified. Okay, so for instance, if I, oh, we don't want that. If I go into, where are we? If I go into BBC News, I hit this tab at the top. Okay, hopefully this will load in a second. Well, even if it doesn't, we'll just magnify the home page. Okay, so you can see here, it's just magnifying whatever's under the window. Yeah, but what we can also do is we can increase or decrease the size of this lens. Okay, so if I go back into the little drop down menu, Resize Lens. Okay, I want to make it a little bit smaller or a little bit longer. Okay, so for instance, if you're reading a newspaper article, this may be quite useful. Okay, so now I'll tap out of that. Okay, so now it will magnify, you know, quite a stretch across the screen there from left to right. There we go. Okay, you can see whatever is underneath that will be magnified. I can also change and invert the colors as well. So if I go inverted, okay, now you can see whatever is magnified, the color is inverted. Okay, you might not be able to see that on the screen share yet. I apologize, but it will catch up. There we go. Okay, so you can customize and change all of these different features to suit you. Okay, somebody that has AMD, for instance, may want the full screen magnified. Okay, they might not want this zoom lens. So choose region, window zoom again. Okay, okay, so now choose region. There we go. Oh, full screen. There we go. Okay, so now we're back. Tap, tap. There we go. You can see I've inverted the colors as well. So yeah, so obviously it is quite different. Okay, but you get the idea. Yeah, so the zoom and the magnifier features, you know, there's lots of different enhancements that you can change and customize to suit your particular visual impairment. Okay, your visual, your condition. Okay, great. So if I just tap, tap, tap again, choose filter, none. We don't want a filter. There we go. Now I'm going to move that to the side for a second. And now I want us to explore the speak content feature. Okay, because I think this is, you know, it's pretty good. Okay, again, some people may disagree, but what I want to do here is, okay, I've got a news article here. Shock, it's about COVID-19. Okay, now I've got a couple of options, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, I can highlight a section of the text myself. Okay, so if I do that by holding my little pen on the screen, and then if I just drag this to read this particular paragraph. Okay, now you'll notice on my screen there I've got copy, look up, speak or share. I want to select speak. Okay, now hopefully the audio will come through. Let's have a look.
And Essex is also expected to move to high alert restrictions this weekend.
Okay, it was delayed, but you got the audio in the end. Did you get that, Stuart Beveridge?
Yeah, that's it, Sam. Yeah.
Great, great, good stuff. So you can highlight a piece of text and ask it to speak for you, or I can ask it to speak the whole page for me by using this little controller here. Okay, now it brings up another little device. Okay, and if I press play,
leaders over the expansion of the strictest coronavirus restrictions to more parts of England. Liverpool City region is the only area in the top tier of restrictions, with pubs and bars not serving meals closed.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. It's actually read a different article, but let's try that. Let's try that again. Where can I go on holiday? Why don't we try this one? Here we go.
Getty Images. Coronavirus. What does the tier system mean for UK holidays? 19 hours ago, during October half-term, many people would normally be thinking of taking a short holiday in the UK, but with new local restrictions in place in England.
I'm just going to pause that for a second, okay? So you get the idea, okay? The speak content tool, okay, is you can operate it by using this little controller here on the side of my screen, this little widget. Some would argue that obviously if somebody with low vision, they need to be bigger, okay? There we go, okay? And we can also, if I just click on this little pointed finger here, okay, I can also just read a designated area of the page. So if I just wanted to read the headline, for instance, don't want to listen to the full thing.
Coronavirus. What does the tier system mean for UK holidays?
Okay, so you can just select a certain area of the text that you would like to be read out loud. Okay, so it's, you know, it's quite a useful little feature. You know, if you just want to sort of skim read headlines or skim read an article or whatever it might be, you could use that feature. So in a nutshell, okay, that is the spoken content feature. You can also minimize this little bar here if you don't want to see it, and it will go to the side of the screen. Okay, you can increase and decrease the speaking rate. Okay, so at the minute I've got it sort of you know, just sort of neutral. You can increase that, decrease that as you wish in the accessibility settings. Okay, you can also edit and customize the highlight colors. So for those of you that could see that, when it was speaking to me, it was also highlighting the text or highlighting each word. You can have that just to highlighting words. You can have it highlighted to words and sentences, or, you know, whatever it might be. You can edit all of these things. Okay, so yeah, a really sort of brief demonstration of how the spoken content features work. But I hope that was useful in some capacity. Now, to finish off, okay, I want to quickly show you. Now, this is a beast in its own. We could do a whole session around voice control, okay? But what I want to do is I just want to quickly show you how it works, you know, and sort of the bare basics of it, really. So again, voice control can be found obviously in accessibility features. If I tap on there, if I tap, then obviously that we will be live. All right, so that would mean that obviously anything that I speak out loud will be picked up by my iPad, and it will start doing all sorts of things that I ask it to. So I'm going to just keep that muted for the time being. Okay, if you're using voice control for the first time, there will be a brief sort of wizard setup that you'll have to go through. Okay, you do actually even have to download some more content, some new content if it's the first time that you've used it. Okay, now those of you that don't have iOS 14, don't worry, this is the voice control feature is available on our iOS 13, so it's not a brand new feature, but they have made improvements to it for iOS 14. So you will need iOS 13 or later, and yeah, before you use voice control, a file download is required. So you may need to free up some space if you're running short. Once the download's complete, okay, you don't need a Wi-Fi connection to use voice control. Okay, once the download is complete. Okay, but it's recommended that you connect to Wi-Fi before you turn voice control on for the first time. All right, so please bear that in mind. Great. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to demonstrate voice control on my iPhone. Okay, because it won't allow me to do that whilst I'm sharing my screen with you on the iPad. All right, so I'm going to move that to the side. I'm just going to flash the SOC Council card again in case anybody was interested in joining the SOC Council. Okay, yeah, I'm not making commission or anything, I promise. Here's my phone. Maybe we could just spend a whole session, Stuart, of me just showing everybody my collection of socks But anyway, that's for another time.
I'll have a word with you later on that, sir.
Anyway, here we go. So what I'm going to do now, folks, is I'm going to, you see my iPhone here. I've just got an iPhone 11, this one. I'm going to go to, where are we? I want to go to voice control. Now it's telling me that it's already on. Ah, it is already on. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is, guys, I'm going to turn that on, and then everything that I speak will be towards the directed towards the phone in order to use my phone completely hands-free. Okay. Now I demonstrated this a few weeks ago to a gentleman up in Scotland, up in St Andrews, who he is visually impaired, but he still does have quite a lot of usable vision. So his actual vision wasn't his main problem. His main problem was that due to a brain injury, he had issues with his hands, with like uncontrollable shakes. So he wasn't able to use a mouse, computer mouse, or a keyboard anymore. So we had to explore other ways. So we had to explore dictation software, like Dragon, naturally speaking, which some people might be familiar with. Obviously, this is Apple's own version of Dragon. Okay, as voice control. Okay, now it is a beast. I will say that it will require quite a bit of training in order to get to grips with all of the different commands that you'd need to use. But if anybody of you out there, does struggle with other disabilities, physical impairments, like you do struggle with the use of your hands, other sorts of areas, this may be something to explore. Okay, I'm aware that a lot of people may think, well, it's quite a visual feature, this, so you do need a certain amount of usable vision, but you can use it in conjunction with voiceover. Okay, it's just at times they may sort of start to work against each other, but we can explore that at another time. But for now, I just want to show you the bare bones of voice control. Okay, so I'm going to turn it on. Go home. Go home. Go to sleep. Okay, so I've just put it to sleep. Okay, so you can see there, just by using my voice, okay, I've gone back to my home screen. Okay, wake up. Show numbers. 7. Tap BBC News. Show grid. Go to sleep. Okay, so just I'm putting it to sleep, obviously, so it doesn't pick up my voice. So for those of you that are able to pick up the visuals on the screen here, okay, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to stop my screen share here. There we go. So I've just got the full screen now. Okay, I used a few different voice commands there, like show grid or show numbers. Okay, and what that does is, as pretty self-explanatory, it puts a grid of numbers across my iPhone screen in order for me then to identify that the particular area or feature on the screen that I want to select. Okay, so if I say show numbers, it will number every single feature or every single application or icon on my screen, and I can then I can say the relevant number and it will take me into that application. Okay, does that make sense? So I'll go again. Wake up. Show numbers. 3. Go to sleep. Excellent. So my internet connection. Oh no, there we go. We're back up and running. Wake up. Open mail. Show numbers. 8. Sam.Colton. Show numbers. 5. Show numbers. 7. Test email. Tap return. Scroll up. Scroll down. Hello, Sam. How are you? full stop. Tap space. This is a test email. Tap space. In order, tap space, to explore the Apple voice control feature. Full stop. New paragraph. Best wishes, comma, new paragraph. Sam. Tap send. Go to sleep. Okay, there we go. So I'll leave it at that for now. Okay, that was a very, very, very brief introduction to voice control. Okay, but you can see there, okay, that email's just come through to my work phone, that I was controlling my iPhone, okay, simply by voice. Okay, I was asking it to open applications. I was asking it to, I was obviously dictating. So it does have dictation capabilities within voice control as well. Okay, without Siri. Siri's got nothing to do with voice control. It's completely separate. Okay, I was dictating an email. Obviously, I was sending the email. I was scrolling through a BBC News article. All sorts of different bits and pieces. Okay, it's basically it's endless. It's endless. The possibilities of voice control. You can operate your iPhone, iPad, or Mac. Okay, I've been playing around with this on my Mac as well. It's slightly different in terms of the commands. So obviously for iPad and iPhone, you'd say tap a certain feature like tap send, or that sort of thing. On the Mac, you'd say click. Okay, so very similar to Dragon software, you do have to, the voice commands basically mirror exactly what you would do with a mouse, for instance. So if I was going to say right click, whatever the feature might be, you would say right click. Okay, it's that kind, it works in that sort of way. Okay, but it is an absolute beast and would require quite a bit of training. But I just wanted to sort of yeah, drop that in today for us to explore. But what I can also do now is, so if I say, hey Siri, turn voice control off.
Okay, I've turned off voice control.
All right, there you go. So voice control is now asleep. Okay, so we get the idea, don't we? But yeah, as I've been mentioning throughout today's session, okay, we can explore these areas in much more detail if required. I know that we're really just scratching the surface today, but there's a lot. There are so many different sort of areas that we could delve into. But hopefully, you've sort of got something from that today. We hope. Let me just have a quick look at questions and anything that's in the chat box. Oh, we've got lots. We've got lots here. We've got thanks, Rob. Yeah, lots of thanks to Rob. What else we got? How do you pause and play where left off? I have searched and appears to not be available. Yeah, so using the, I think that's in relation to the spoken content feature or speak screen. Like I said, there is a little widget on the side of the screen there. If you tap on, you can pause whilst it's reading a full page. You can fast forward and rewind, in fact, by using the widget controller on the screen there. So that was from George Ferguson. Chris has asked, sorry Sam, how did you get the speak controller up? Yes, again, apologies. That is all through the accessibility settings. So if you go into spoken content and accessibility features, okay, there's an option to turn the controller on or off. So that little widget that I keep mentioning on the side of the screen, you can turn that on or turn it off. But yeah, that is how you would control those features. Penny's mentioned something for Rob there. Oh, that was all about controlling the iPhone remotely. Dan Diane, speakable content works well on a PDF as VoiceOver tends not to read these. Yeah, excellent. That's a really useful observation, actually. That VoiceOver struggles sometimes with PDFs, so the spoken content feature may be a better option with PDF files. Also, Diane said, one of the new features on iOS is you can set up speak content by double tapping the back of the phone. Excellent. I missed that, actually. That's really useful. Okay, so you can see my iPhone here. Okay, you can actually turn on a really useful feature where if you just, in fact, let's see if it works. If I double tap the back of my phone, tap, tap. Ah, interesting, interesting. Right, let's go. So I've turned it on. Tell you what I'll do. I'm interested now, Diane, because you've just reminded me of this useful feature. So let's have a look. Okay, so if I go, if I tap, tap the back of my screen, there you go. Okay, so that has now allowed me, you can set it. I think I've actually set it so when I double tap the back of my phone, it takes me to my home screen. But anyway, the point is you can set up a feature as well in accessibility where you can actually tap the back of the phone to operate certain things. So yeah, which resolves the issues of seeing the little box. Thank you, Diane. Perfect. Great, Chris. Brilliant voice control demo. Thanks, Chris. I mean, that's perfect. We'll take that. We'll take that today. Great. I think that's about it. Oh, we've got a couple of Q&As. Did you have a link to the list of accessible games? That's from Elizabeth. Stuart, can you help with that?
I actually don't have a link to accessible games, but for anything Apple related, if you go to, and I'm sure many people will have heard of this brilliant resource, if you go to appleviz.com, so Apple is in, APPLE, and then VIS.com, there are a range of accessible apps. People tell you what apps are accessible. There are how-to guides. The list is endless and it covers everything Apple. There are podcasts as well for audio demonstrations of products. So Apple Viz is your go-to there.
Excellent. Thank you. That was for Elizabeth. Hope that's helpful. And Gillian's asked, can voice control be used on all applications? The answer, as far as I'm aware, is yes. Okay. Yeah. So you can operate the iPhone, the iPad, the Mac, just as you would physically. All features and applications can be accessed by using your voice. So there's a brilliant, if you haven't seen it yet, and for anybody that's completely new to this, please check it out. If you go onto YouTube and just type in Apple voice control, there's a brilliant promo video that, I mean, Apple make brilliant sort of marketing media type videos anyway, that they actually use a quadriplegic gentleman, so he has no use of his hands or his legs, and he is operating his computer entirely through voice control. I'm aware that he's not visually impaired. Okay, so it's a very visual video. However, it's just a sort of a demonstration of the possibilities of the voice control app, really. So please do check that out. It's it's brilliant. So you can find that on the Apple website or YouTube. Yeah, good. Thanks, Emma. Really useful meeting. Need to leave. Don't worry, Emma. You go. And I'm sure everybody else is dying to go as well. Before we finish, though, Chris Brady, I'm so sorry. You've been waiting really patiently for the entire session. So if you're still here, I'm gonna. If you want to unmute yourself, you can speak away if you still want to. Hi, Chris.
Good morning. Anyway, thanks very much for the demonstrations. They were very good. Now, I've got an iPhone which, if I am going to ask Siri to do something, I just hold the button down and say, do this, do that, do the other. Now, with an iPhone that hasn't got a home button, how do you do the same thing without the home button?
Yeah, I'll take that on, Chris.
Go, Stuart.
Oh, sorry, Sam.
go
So
for it.
there are two ways. If you have enabled the HEY Siri command, you could just say, hey Siri, open messages. If you've enabled that in settings, that might be one to look for. Or if you have something like I have, an iPhone 10, I always just hold down the power button. So the side button is the term.
Yeah.
And if you've got voiceover on, or if you go, it'll vibrate, and then again you can just say open. So it's the side button that they've packed everything into the side button, Chris.
It's
that down and up the thing.
The side button, the power button.
It's the power button. I mean, yeah.
Takes the position that the home.
That's taking the place of the home button. Yeah. So again, if you were trying to enable and disable an accessibility shortcut, again, instead of triple clicking the home button 3 times, you triple click the side button.
I actually didn't. Yeah. I should have probably demonstrated this actually, but very quickly, Chris. So what I've got an iPhone 11 here that obviously doesn't have a home button either. So rather than let me just unlock it. So if I triple tap the side button, the power button, if you like, 1, 2, 3. Okay, it gives me a list of accessibility shortcuts now as well.
I see. Yeah.
Okay, so now I can access. Yeah, I can invert the colors. I can access the magnifier. I can access voice control or Zoom, all those sorts of things.
Yes, it gives you a menu that you can choose from. Yeah.
Yes, you can just triple tap the side button, which is now, now the home button, I guess.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps.
That's good. Yeah, that's very good. That is
great.
Thanks very much indeed for your question, folks.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
And your answers. No, they're very good webinars. Really good they are. I will say though that when I use when I've got the keyboard on say an email, and I double tap the dictate when I'm using the keyboard, I've got Siri on. I can actually dictate emails and memos or things like that, and by turning the rotor to words, I can go to. So if I wanted to edit certain things, if it's made a couple of mistakes, I find that very, very good to do before I send the email, and I find that very useful. I've even sent emails when I've been sitting on a train going somewhere. Which
again, very, very good, Chris, again, because you're actually proofreading the email. I didn't touch on the rotor and things because of time, but again, if there are if there's a more advanced voiceover session that people want to take on, if there's one on, I'm really keen to actually show some accessible apps as well. I know I've said that a few times already, but I do. There are so much out there, apps that work with voiceover to increase the independence of people with visual impairment. So I think this is just going to grow arms and legs. This really is, as always, just the basic starting point.
Yeah. Well, that's good anyway.
Yeah.
It might be good if you sent a little survey out and say, well, what would you like to go further into for people, so that you could get a miscellany of things, and then you could build the webinars on what you receive through your surveys.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. We did try a survey a few months back,
we did.
which we should actually develop and sort of start to make more concentrated specific webinars, but yeah, thank you. We will certainly look into that and try and get some more sort of more feedback about what people want, because that's why we're here.
Yeah, well, that's good though. No, they are good. Thanks very much anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. That's great. Perfect. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up because we've gone way over, but thanks for everybody that's hung around. There's still 50 people in the room, which is amazing. I just double checked the numbers. We had 138 people registered for this webinar today, which is just amazing. And I know that a lot of those people wouldn't have been able to make it for various commitments, but I'm sure everybody will catch the recording on our YouTube channel, which if you just go into YouTube, Sight and Sound Technology, you'll find our channel there, and you can catch up on this webinar and the hundreds of others that we've been running throughout this year, in particular, obviously, since lockdown, beyond. Good. I'll wrap up. Just to say a big, massive thank you as always to Stuart Beveridge. Thanks, Stuart.
Yeah, pleasure, and thanks again to everybody for attending as always. Yeah.
No, it's brilliant. It's always really good to have you here, and Stuart Lawler, who had to leave earlier. He sends his apologies, but he's a busy man. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time, okay, for another session, and I'll be sending details out shortly for that. But as Chris has actually just mentioned, please do send us your suggestions. Okay, if you want a tailored, specific webinar about a particular area of assistive technology or whatever it might be, software, hardware, accessibility features, even if it's a social issue, if you want to open up a discussion about something, anything, please just send us your suggestions and we're more than happy to explore it. These sessions are yours, okay? And yeah, so please do just let us know. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody that said thank you in the chat box. It's been a brilliant, brilliant session as always. And as I said, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time, Thursday the 29th, Thursday the 29th of October at 10 AM for another Seascape and Sight and Sound social hub. So we'll really look forward to seeing all of you then, hopefully. Fantastic. All right, guys, take care. Enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend, and stay safe, most importantly. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.